Hi there, welcome to Nebby Invest. Today, I want to talk about one of my favorite companies on the ASX, Cidev. In fact, this was one of the first companies I did a YouTube video on. So I am a shareholder of this company, and hopefully I'll be a shareholder for decades to come, because I do believe this company has a significant future for them, lots of potential. And one of the things right now, I do think the market is not realizing the potential of this company. So what Cidev does is they're really a chemistry slash environmental company, and particularly what they do is they're into separating liquids from solids. And they do have organic growth, but they've also done a few very intelligent, smart acquisitions in the past few years. So they've entered into the oil and gas, and that's about a year ago or just over a year ago, and they've moved into the water and wastewater management areas. So those acquisitions, I think, are diversifying the sectors they're being, or they can employ their technology. So at the moment, they are expanding quite rapidly. You can see that with the revenue growth, or in this case, I'm going to look at the cash receipts growth over the past few years. And in my opinion, the market is missing the potential of this company right now. So before I get into the Appendix 4C, I just want to look at some facts around this company. So the ticker code of Cidev is SDV, a market cap of only 136 million, so not particularly high in these, we'll say, lofty valuation times. In fact, some companies I'm looking right now have significantly higher valuations and significantly less potential than this company. Revenue in the trailing 12 months is $30 million, and you'll see that has significantly grown over the past few years. In the last 12 months, they were operational cash flow negative, but that is turning around. We are seeing quarters, or some quarters, where they are operational cash flow positive. And are they in this quarter? Well, you have to wait and see. So they did release their Appendix 4C on the 12th of April, and I highly recommend you having a look at that, particularly if you're interested in making a purchase of this company. When a company releases their Appendix 4C, sometimes they report into two sections. So you'll see two announcements, and usually they separate into activities and just the cash flow. Sometimes they combine those two into the one report. And I always skip the activities report. I might read it later, but when I first see the Appendix 4C being released, I go straight to this statement. And this is the cash flows from operating activities. It's the first thing you see in Appendix 4C. And what I'm really concerned with here is receipts from customers. And for Cidev in the past quarter, quarter three, they had $11.3 million in receipts from customers. Now, in isolation, that means nothing. You need to know a trend, because just for instance, maybe the last quarter they had $20 million receipts, and the quarter before that, maybe 25. So maybe receipts are going down. So you need to know what the trend is in receipts. I like to see growing receipts through time. So I'll show you that trend in the next slide. But just as important, and I don't really care about the trend here, is to see whether the company is operational cash flow positive or negative. You can see that right at the bottom there in the final number. And Cidev is operational cash flow positive by $1.5 million. And that's very important, because that means the company is not burning cash in operations. It's the first thing I look for a growing company. And I do believe it is a major inflection point for a company, because if they continue to be operational cash flow positive by a large amount, it means they don't have to do capital raisings, and they don't have to do any sort of loans or borrowings. It means they can fund their growth through their operations. It's a very important point for a company to reach, and all successful companies have to reach that point. So we can see that this company, Cidev, is growing, and they have reached this point, because when you look at the beginning cash of the quarter, which was $7.1 million, by the end of the quarter, they had grew cash on hand by $1 million and finished the quarter with $8.1 million of cash. Now, just because they were operational cash flow positive for this quarter doesn't mean that's going to continue. So the main thing I'm looking for with Cidev is that they can continue to be operational cash flow positive. And if fund managers see this, if they remain profitable, I have no doubt we'll see major funds starting to buy into Cidev, and that will be the sign, that will be sort of the turning point in the share price for this company. And we'll see the share price significantly re-rate at that point in time. One thing I always look for with these sort of companies, these smaller companies, and you can find this in the Appendix C in Section 7. They talk about the financing facilities. They talk about what sort of borrowings they have and the details around those borrowings. So always like to look at this to make sure they're not significantly in debt, and to make sure any debt they have does not have really high interest rates. For at the moment, SciDev only has $414,000 of loans or borrowings. And you can see right at the bottom there, they do say or talk about what their financing facilities are and what interest rates they have. So for instance, there's one here, Canaan's International Limited. They have a facility there of $350,000, but the interest rate with that facility is 15%. So that sort of facility, I don't want them to partake in. I want them to make sure they don't need that facility or use that facility. There's another one there, Apricity Finance Group, invoice purchase facility, that has an interest rate of 21%. So even though we're in a low interest rate environment, a lot of these small cap companies have facilities or finance facilities where they are paying high interest rates, and a few companies are getting in trouble because of this. And it's one of the things I really look at, pay close attention that a company isn't growing its debt unnecessarily and they're not getting into trouble. Next, I'm going to show you the receipts history for SciDev since April 2017. So this is 4 years of receipts. Back then, in April 2017, they only had $450,000 of receipts. It then grew very slowly over the next 2 years. In fact, it went from $450,000 to only $760,000 in 2 years. But since then, since that April 2019, SciDev have grown their receipts from $760,000 to $11.3 million. That is substantial growth. That is significant growth. That is exponential growth. That's exactly what I'm looking for in that company. Exponential growth in their receipts. When you calculate their compound quarterly growth rate, we're seeing numbers of 22% per quarter. But if you take away those first 2 years and just look at the last 2 years, they're growing receipts at 40% per quarter. If you see those sort of numbers per year, you get excited, but this is per quarter, and it's not off a low base. So if you go back 2 years, it's just below 1 million, and they've grown that to 11.3 million. So right now, this is one of the reasons I'm very excited about this company. They are significantly growing their receipts, and there is potential those sort of growth rates will continue in the future because this company is getting more and more clients, and not only more and more clients, these are significant clients. For example, Fortescue Metal, BHP, those sort of companies, massive companies on the world stage. So very exciting times for SciDev and very exciting times for shareholders of this company. Now on to looking at some charts for SciDev. So first chart I'm going to look at is 3-year weekly chart, and then we'll look at the 1-year daily chart. Some interesting things you do find in these charts. So the first chart, the weekly chart, you can see when the share price of SciDev was re-rated. In fact, the share price went from 8 cents to 80 cents, so a 10-bagger in about 7 months. So that would have been exciting times for shareholders, particularly those who held strong during that period. But before then, we did see share price flat. And what I'm showing you here is the Appendix 4Cs and the cash receipts with those releases. And we did see the actually cash receipts also being flat during this period. And if you look at the volume, very low volume as well. So the market was not interested in SciDev at this point. There was no reason to be excited because everything was flat. Cash receipts was flat. Share price was flat. But then in July 2019, around the time they released their Appendix 4C, there was still no growth in the cash receipts, but that's the time we started to see the market get excited about the company, and we started to see the share price being rated on higher volume. So at that point in time, the market was forward-looking. They were expecting receipts to grow over the next few quarters, and they were definitely right, because over the next few quarters, we saw receipts go from 770,000 to 1.5 million to 2.3 million, and then in April 2020, 5.8 million. You can see what happened during the COVID-19 financial panic. Share price went from about 90 cents all the way down to about 30 cents, a perfect time to buy in. And I'll show you why that was a perfect time to buy in, because you can put in a bit of a trend line right then. Every single time the share price has got to that trend line, it's bounced off it, And during the COVID-19 financial panic, in fact, the share price went below the trend line and then it quickly rebounded. So at that point in time, people were panicking. There was just panic in the streets of the financial markets. And whenever there's panic, is a good time to buy in. What's that saying by Warren Buffett? Be greedy when others are fearful and fearful when others are greedy. And that was a perfect time when you should be greedy when others are fearful. And finally, I just want to show you the one-year daily chart for SciDev because there's a few interesting things you can see here. And what I've done is I've kept in the trend line, which I introduced in the previous slide. And that's the bottom sloping line you see here. But I've also introduced a parallel sloping line just above that. And what that is suggesting is the share price of SciDev has been trading within a channel over the past year or so. And you can take advantage of that if you want to by trading or selling at the top of the channel and buying in at the bottom of the channel. So what some traders would do, whenever the share price gets to the bottom of the channel or the trend line, they will buy in on anticipation the share price will start rising again. And then every single time the share price gets to the top of the channel, they will sell. Now, a few days ago, about a week ago, the share price actually got above the top of the channel on a bit of strength there. You can see the share price ran up pretty hard before that, and that was showing some strength. But there was a bit of selling as soon as the share price got above the top of that channel, a bit of selling and set the share price back below it. So that's showing you that that trend line or the top of that channel has remained intact because that was testing. The market was testing the top of the channel and it failed that test. So we're remaining trading within this channel. But the good thing is this trading channel is upward sloping, suggesting the long-term movements of SciDev is on the upwards trend. That's all I've got for this video on SciDev, a very exciting Appendix 4C, operational cash flow positive, and hoping they can keep this going over the next few years, become consistently operational cash flow positive, consistently profitable, and if that happens, we'll start seeing more and more fund managers become excited about this company, and that should send the share price through the roof. That's my hope anyway, and I'm a little bit biased because I am a shareholder and I do think this company has a lot of potential moving forward. If you have any questions about this company, leave it in the comment section. Otherwise, I'm not a financial advisor, so if you do need financial advice for your own circumstances, make sure you seek out someone who is qualified and can speak to your own financial needs. That's all for this video. Have a good day. Bye.